Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from inkybutterfly.com. Thank you very much for joining me today for another card making tutorial. And we're doing a colour challenge, so my Monday slots tend to be these colour challenges now that are run by one of our fellow teammates called Vicky Lou Designs. Link will be in the description to her challenge. Now this one, I've entered it as of yesterday. And she runs her challenges through Monday through Sunday, launches a new one each Monday at 10 o'clock. So this is actually the one that's just expired, but you can still click through on that link and you can see what the new challenge is for today. So that'll be fun to find out. Okay, so our pick today is Night of Navy, Merry Merlot and Smoky Slate. Now all of those colours are actually in the neutrals family, believe it or not. So we added these nice base colours as well to the sort of brown and grey palette. The other colour we've got in there is Mossy Meadow as well, so nice deep green that we can use as a neutral as well. So that's our colourway. And then I thought I would also try and use some of the elements that are going to retire if they haven't already. Hopefully they're still in stock and they're still able to purchase them as well. So what we're going to use is Sentimental Swirls, which is one of the million sales stamp set from Sam Hammond, who's my upline. So this is a really lovely stamp set with some cute sentiments in that lovely graphic font. Okay, so we've got the flowers and the swirls on there. And then I'm going to combine that with Soaring Swallows. So rather than using the birds in this set, I thought we'd go with these ones. So those are the two stamp sets that we're using today. And then I'm going to have to get them in while I can and use the Stitch So Sweetly dies, which will not be continuing. They will be retiring, which is slightly devastating. I have to say I use them so much, and I'm sure some of you watching will know how much I use these. I even got comments on Facebook saying, "Oh, Verity, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "Oh no." So yeah, it's a bit of a disappointment those are retiring, but there we go. Let's give them one last rally. Okay, so let's put those over there. The card that we're going to make is this one. So lots of white. So even though we've got those deep dark colours, I think we've actually come up with a really nice subtle card there. And then I've used Wink of Stella to brush out the colour. So if you haven't ever seen that, then watch this space, we'll show you how to do that. So materials then, so we've got a white card base. I haven't got my smoky slate layer. Let's cut my smoky slate layer. The white bit that I'm stamping on is 3 1/4 by 5, so I'm going to have to cut my smoky slate with you right here. So if it's 3 1/4 by 5, we want it to be 5 1/8 of an inch. So on your trimmer, in fact this is a good opportunity to show you the trimmer actually. We've got really nice clear measurements on the trimmer in both imperial and metric, so you guys will know that I prefer using the imperial measurements, but they're really nice and clear increments there. There's our halfway point, there's the quarter, and then in between we've got this line which is our 1/8 of an inch, and that's my preferred distance between my matte layers. Okay, so if my white layer is 5, I'm going to add 1/8 of an inch and cut it to 5 1/8 of an inch. I've got a nice little scrap there that we can use for something else, which I'll put to one side. And then it's 3 1/4, which is there, add 1/8, which is actually 3 3/8, but even if you don't want to work out how many eighths it is, go to the quarter, bob it along 1/8, and there you are. Okay, another little scrap to use. Now if your blade is starting to get a little bit on the worn side, which mine I've had in use for quite some time now, a little trick is to use one of these nail block things. I don't know whether there's a professional term. Nail technicians out there can tell me. But this will just knock off these little fuzzies for you and give you a clean edge. Alright, okay, so you can get some longevity out of your blades if you're prepared just to just do a little bit of little bit of that on there. So that should now hopefully be the same, perfect even, not the same, but perfect layout all the way around. So my 1/8 of an inch gives you 1/16 all the way around. That's, yeah, this nice sort of skinny border, okay, which isn't too in your face. All right, so that's how our layering is going to work. All right, so obviously this is the bit we want to do a little bit of stamping on, so we'll just leave that in place on the desk there, and I'll just bring across my small grid paper, which I find is a really perfect thing to have handy. Nice and small, quick to grab, protects your surface, and it gives you a bit of a cushion for photopolymer stamps. So it does lots of things all in one, just by doing that. And then what we're going to do is stamp our swirl into the background here. All right, and we're going to use smoky slate for that. So depending on the age of your ink pad, this might come out a little dark or a little light. So mine's quite fresh. It's not too dry, so it's going to come out nice and dark. So we're just going to do some light tapping. Now, ordinarily I would take my stamps to the ink pad. With this larger stamp, I'm going to do it that way around. And on my example card, some of the swirls sort of disappeared a little bit behind the sentiment, so I'm going to actually do it twice on this one, just to mix it up a bit, and you can see what the difference is. So I'm going to put one at the top, and then I'm going to twist it around and stamp it again along the bottom, just to fill that background up a little bit. This is an E block, it's quite a large block. If that's a little heavy for your hands, you could also use the Stamparatus tool to help you with that. Try not to overlap it with the previous one, but get close and make it look like it's a sort of part of the pattern, if you like. And then I suppose you can fiddle about with which way up you want it. That's going to be a decision we'll have to make at some point. Okay, so that's fine. Let's get that cleaned off. And while we've got the smoky slate ink out, we don't need that at the moment, so I'm just going to put that to one side. I'm just going to get a scrap from somewhere. I've got a scrap bin full of stuff. Is that going to be big enough? Oh, not quite. I want something big enough just to stamp my sentiment and oh, that'll do. There we go. Literally out my scrap bin. Look, obviously die cut something. It looks like stitch contours maybe. And put our sentiment on in the smoky slate. You could easily swap out the smoky slate in the layers and everything for one of the other colours, but for our design I thought it worked best with the red flowers and the bluebirds. Okay, there's our sentiment. Smoky slate is done. Oh no, he's not. Hang on, there's more. There's more. We'll get to that in a second. Just moving some bits and pieces out of the way so I can get this die cut for you. So I'm just going to use a little bit of washi tape that I've got in my stash. Stampin' Up don't sell any washi tape anymore, but I've got loads that I've collected over the years. It just comes in useful for this kind of thing because it's low tack. So we can position our die right over the sentiment and we can see it lined up straight or wherever we want it. Sometimes you don't want it slap in the middle, sometimes you want it off to one side, and we'll just run that through the die cut machine really quick. So I've got my large machine just set up on my desk here so that it's ready to go, but all the dies that I'm using today will fit through the mini machine as well, so that's something for you to bear in mind. So we're going to put just a little bit of ink on the die. So I'm just using one of the blending brushes, taking off the majority of the ink, and I'm just going to rub a little bit of ink over the sort of ends and the corners of this before I remove it from the die, and you'll get like this little sort of frame, if you like, which is super cute. Okay, and that'll just help the sentiment pop from the background white card. Okay, so that's a really cool thing that you can do. Okay, now we're finished with the smoky slate ink. Oh dear, so that's ready to go for later, so we can pop that to one side, and then we need to do let's do the flowers next. So we're going to do Merlot Ink. That's for the flowers. Really nice deep red, as the name suggests, I guess, because it's Merlot, so it's like wine red, really nice. So this stamp coordinates with the flowers and leaves punch. Now I'm deliberately orientating this so that the little flowers are in an X rather than a cross, so like that rather than like that, because that's how I'm just cleaning this stamp off, because I don't like the red ink to stain it too much, so I'm just getting that clean. I've still got one of the stamp cleaning pads which was discontinued last year, but I do find I do like using that on there. So yeah, so the orientation is basically based on the fact that on the punch, that's the orientation that we're going to cut it from. Okay, but before we do, we're going to use our clear Ink of Stella. Now this one's almost run out, but it's damp enough just to move that ink. You could equally use a plain paintbrush, but make sure it's just damp. You don't want it too wet. This cardstock will take a little bit of moisture, but it's not watercolour cardstock, so it won't tolerate too much water. But if you just have it barely damp, because the stamping pads are made with water-based ink, that water will reactivate some of the pigment before it dries and help you blend that in. And of course with Ink of Stella, you'll get a little bit of the glitter through as well. So, okay. Awesome. You could equally use the blender pens as well. Alright, so now we've got some nice coloured flowers which we can, like I say, punch. So I've used a strip because of these multi-design punch. If you use a big piece of cardstock, you're going to waste a whole heap of stuff. And also I've left quite a gap between the stamped images. That's to make sure we don't catch these other images. Alright, so fingers crossed it's been enough actually. Yeah, it's fine. So we're going to line that up in there. And like I say, if those had been close together, I'd be cutting into the next image along with this image here, see? So the top tip for using these multi-punches, okay, you want to make sure all the little bits have come out of the mechanism, otherwise your punch might jam on you. Okay, squeeze it, there we go, collecting all the little pieces that have flown all over the place from those other bits. So that one's got a bit close, but that's okay. Don't think it's close enough. Yes, it's good. Okay, so you want to, I find it easier to use both hands. Just watch you don't get the fleshy bit of your hand caught in that, it hurts. Ask me how I know. Okay, so there we go, just make sure all those bits are out of there, and we've got our little flowers for later. So let's pop that to one side, pop those away, and just get rid of all this little bits and pieces, otherwise they're going to end up stuck to something that I don't want them stuck to. Straight into the bin there. And then I've just got two scraps here, and we're going to do a similar thing with the Night of Navy to stamp the birds. So this is from the Soaring Swallows. Okay, so I thought it'd be fun to use both of them. So we've got this chap here, get him wiped off, and then this one. So these fit on the D blocks. This is my favourite size block. It's perfect. Stampin' Up blocks are great anyway. They're really nicely weighted. They're nice and ergonomic, and this D block is a lovely size for a lot of stamps. So if you're going to start out, definitely get a B block, and the other one I would recommend is an H, which is this one that I use the sentiment on. Again, nice size to hold, really, really lovely, and fits a lot of the sentiments. So my Wink of Stella that I've put down there, we're going to do exactly the same thing, and blend out portions of this. So I didn't want the whole bird coloured in, just wanted to sort of emphasise his wings here, and then bring it in from his tail, and then just over his head a little bit. Okay, so it hasn't sort of coloured the whole image like we did with the flower. Okay, but it just takes that whiteness off and gives them a little bit of life. So so you want to do this before the ink completely dries, otherwise you're not going to get the movement coming through. All right, same with his tail, like that. There we go, and that's him. Okay, they look really cute, don't they? So Soaring Swallows has coordinating dies, which is super duper, because this would be a bit of a pain to fussy cut. So we'll just get those lined up, and I find that if you get the tail and the tips of the wings done, that generally does the job. So those will go through individually on a mini machine, but I'm going to cut them both at the same time using my larger machine. So there we are. Again, just using that sort of washi tape just to hold those dies in place while we just run them through the machine. And then all we've got to do is put it all together. Easy peasy. I do like colour challenges. They make you just have a little think about composition and all that kind of stuff. So we can take that out of the way. And we're going to pop some dimensionals onto this and onto the sentiment. So yeah, it's not a Verity card without some dimensionals. So things are going to be sort of hanging off other bits and all that kind of stuff. So I'm putting the dimensionals sort of away from his body, because I want him to sort of overlap the sentiment. So if the dimensionals on there, it's going to get in the way, right? Okay. And then likewise with this guy, he's going to be swooping in, but his head and stuff is going to be sort of off onto the base card. So we'll put the dimensionals sort of further down on his body towards his head, so that they will overlap nicely. Okay. And then of course with the flowers, you'll have seen me do this trick many times. I like to add some shape to them because they aren't flat in nature, are they? So anything rounded, a ball tool, your bone folder, the back of your Wink of Stella, anything that will give you apply pressure to the back will make them cup up like that. And then if you press into the centres, the back, the flesh of your hand is really nice because it just gives it a bit of something to resist on. And then you get these lovely little cupped flowers, which we'll just place face down there, ready to receive some glue in a minute. Okay, so just a bit of assembly to do then. We can just use our faithful stamping seal, which has just run out on me, so let's show you how to do that. I've got a spare one here because I knew it was coming. The red carrier tape, you start to see it appear in the top here, and you know it's going to run out anytime soon. So you have to open up your cassette, whatever you call this handle thing, and take out your you're empty. I tend to use this opportunity just to make sure that there's no glue has ended up accumulating around the opening here, which it sometimes does, like that. Okay, that's sometimes why you get like those stringy sort of bits and pieces that appear. This one's already open and ready, so you just tear off the top. Okay, and slot it back in so the cogs line up with those little spokes there. And push that back together and we're ready to go. The only thing you've got to do is roll it on. It's probably hard to show on camera, but you can actually, if you roll it on, you'll see the adhesive start to appear, and there it is. Right, so just sometimes takes a minute just to come through, but that's working just fine. So again, layering. I hold it in my dominant hand, which in my case is left hand, so that might look a bit weird for you guys. And I'm lining up this edge at the bottom, top, and on the right hand side, making sure they're even. And if they're even, the top should look after itself. So I'm going to drop that down and press it down. You should get perfect layering every time. More seal on there to adhere it to your card base, which again we can, just look to make sure your borders are even on 3 sides, and then if your 3 sides are okay, the rest should take care of itself, like so. Let's give that a bit of a, just press it down, make sure it's stuck. Okay, now what I did on my sample was the bird that's swooping in from the top, he's the guy who sort of defines where your sentiment's going to be, because we want to make sure he's got room. So I'm going to peel off his dimensionals and I'm going to put him in. So he's in the frame, if you like. I like things to cut over the edges of the layers, so it just helps bring in the whole design. So we're just going to pop that in like that. And then our sentiment can slot in where it needs to. Okay, we've got plenty of room, so we can make it go in as far as we want, keeping that edge nice and straight. When we're happy, we can press that down. And then our other little birdie is sweeping in from the edge here, and again I'm making his little tail and stuff come in from there. And I think on this one, because I've got the opportunity, because there's like a swirl there that looks like a branch, if you like, just going to put beads of glue on there and just kind of give you a bit of balance in terms of, I mean, you can tell me that I've made a mistake there if you like, but I just thought I'd offer up a different look to this by balancing out those flowers across both corners of that sentiment. Okay, just want to use some kind of pokey tool or something just to make sure that they're stuck down, and that's it. Okay, really nice, I really like it. Cool, right? I think considering the palette, I think that's quite a really nice subtle card there. Now, up to you which whether you think the offsetting of the flowers works. I think it might depend on how the rest of the card sort of is composed. To see, you didn't have any swirls up here, so it didn't feel like there was a branch to hang them off, if you know what I mean. But either or, I think both work really, really well. So just to remind you then, that was using Night of Navy, Merry Merlot and Smoky Slate as part of Vicky's Creative Colour Challenge. We had the Stitch So Sweetly dies, my ultimate favourite in the world, never going to get rid of those. Soaring Swallows and Sentimental Swirls. Okay, so obviously shop links will be available if they are still in stock. So just click through the description there and there will be a link there to Vicky Lou's colour challenges if you would like to have a go yourself at this one or any future ones. Alright, so hope you've enjoyed that. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.